Hey, besties. Cheers to this fine Monday. I'm drinking a rosé tea. And by rosé, I mean rose petals, what is it called? Rose hips, and white grape, and I don't know, various other teas. But it's your boy, Mixed Mercury, the Astro Himbo. And today I just wanted to do a little Jupiter retrograde check in. Kind of random, not something I was expecting to talk about in general. But it just kind of occurred to me that that bitch stationed retrograde a couple of weeks ago, and then we all just kind of stopped talking about it because then Mars retrograde was upon us. And something that's been interesting about this particular Jupiter retrograde moment is that very quickly Venus, the ruler of Jupiter and Taurus, moved into its opposing sign, Scorpio, and has been hanging out in detriment uh basically this whole time that Jupiter has been moving backwards. So that feels like an interesting combination to me that we're dealing with for a couple more weeks. A couple more weeks that we are dealing with until, let me pull up a date. Venus is actually going to move into Sagittarius next Wednesday, November the 6th. So I just thought I'd do a little check-in with you guys. I'm curious how Jupiter retrograde has been going for you. Curious if you watched our Jupiter retrograde video. It has a decent amount of views on it for the popularity or lack thereof of this YouTube channel. So curious what that's been like for you. For me, the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I have been doing lives lately that are a little bit more personal, and my chart is full of fixed signs, all of them except for Taurus. I have no Taurus in my chart, very weak Venus, being that it's in Scorpio. And my relationship to my work, this work that I do, is shifting. And it's not necessarily that it's shifting because I don't like what I'm doing. but it's shifting because maybe the way I was oriented towards my work before Jupiter stationed retrograde was definitely heavily client based and working with people one to one because that's what I enjoy doing and have had this dream of sorts of being some kind of a off label therapist if that's how you could describe it, a therapist that isn't a therapist. Because, I'm using astrology and I'm using divination tools. And that was the whole reason that I went to coaching school was to learn how to work with clients better and learn some better skills. But it's been weird every time I've tried to really dive into that and utilize it and promote it and stuff like that in my work, like the coaching skills. It just hasn't. Well, one, it's very cool to see it work. So it's not that it's not working, that it's not going well, but like I've felt some resistance to some of the techniques, I guess, or whatever, some of the themes, but I've also just like wanted to do something besides teach and besides coach. Um, Last night I was just on here telling stories. Basically, I was using this game, this Esther Perel game, Where Do We Begin? Or Where Should We Begin, which is a storytelling game. You roll a die, you pull cards, you tell stories based on whatever the cards are kind of prompting you to tell stories from. It's a very creative game, very much an intimate game too, to play with people who you're friends with. So I was doing a little bit of that last night and just telling the chat, like, sometimes I just want to be entertaining. Sometimes I don't want to just come on here and talk about astrology or talk about politics or talk about psychology or whatever. And I love all of those things, and all of those are things that I enjoy coming on here to speak about. But I don't know, since doing these daily lives, I've noticed how much I kind of just want to, I just want to entertain. I just want to have fun. Um, in addition to talking about my interests. So with all of that, the other piece of it that's come up is feeling like, one, this fear I've always had of like, does anybody even care about like me as a person, or do they just care what I have to offer? So there's one. And then two, like feeling like, is that self-centered? Is that like ego thing or whatever of just like wanting to come on here and talk about myself? Like, like, are people into that? Whatever. So just these weird thoughts coming in about how the expectation that I think people have of me is that they just want what I can offer in terms of astrology, astrological education, and things like that. So I've had myself in this box for the longest time that like, oh, all of my social media content needs to be teaching something, needs to be like educating, needs to be sharing something of value. Like I can't just come on here and hang out and talk about whatever I want to talk about. So ever since Jupiter is stationed and I've been doing these lives, it's like allowing myself to go outside of that box and try different things like pulling tarot cards or telling personal stories or just, I don't know, hanging out and seeing people show up and watch and kind of like keep up or join in. And then I had a moment last night where I shared a really personal story, personal for me story about like the prompt was an event or an experience that really shaped who I am and changed my life in a big way. And you can go watch that from you can't actually watch that from last night because I said some other things that I don't know if I want that on the internet. So I'll have to do a little bit of an edit. But all of that is actually part of this whole Jupiter and Taurus thing for me because, like, being like a social media personality or a podcaster personality or whatever, all of the shows that I like to watch and creators that I like to watch are people who share just about themselves and their life and their experiences that they're having with no particular agenda other than to just share and be seen by people. And that's something that I really admire. It's something I'm interested in because I'm interested in people's personal lives, whether I know them or not. Um, but when I'm doing it, I notice what goes through my head is like, should I be sharing this? Is this bad? Is this too much? Is this uncomfortable for other people to listen to? Is this, I don't know, incriminating for me and my digital footprint? Like all of that type of stuff. And I wonder why I have that expectation on myself, but not for other people. So I don't know. That's what kind of got me started thinking about all of this. And the response whenever I do share something personal or intimate is usually good. Like people feel seen or people feel like they can relate or that maybe it's humanizing or whatever. And I think that's really important. And that's why I do it. It's not really so much of an ego trip as it is just like, hey, I'm a person, I'm a regular guy too. And maybe how I look in the Taurus sense, like my appearance and my personality doesn't match maybe the things that I've experienced and the things that I've gone through and the traumas and all of the things that I think really actually kind of make me who I am. So those are my thoughts. Curious if any of that's been coming up for y'all. If you've made any big changes or started noticing yourself wanting to make big changes, but maybe you're hesitating to do that because it feels scary or it feels unfamiliar or it feels like threatening to your own personal beliefs and status quo. But it's been really interesting branching out, and it has actually made me feel more creative and more open to trying new things in general. So I don't know. I do want to pull cards today because it just feels like what I want to do. And I'll let it be about Jupiter retrograde because I don't think I ever pulled cards about Jupiter retrograde. So I want to do that and just see what comes up. And I see y'all's replies in the chat. I want to have a little look-see here. Hey, Netta, drag self into chat. I love it. Thank you for being here and for talking to me. The big changes are coming. Absolutely. Very glad to hear it. I want us to all charge towards them and just see what's on the other side. Because we have a long way to go. It's very early in the Jupiter retrograde cycle. I've been writing more about myself online and feeling the same tension. You sharing your stories definitely helped others to see and feel safer to share themselves. I've been inspired by you. Yes. Yes. Yay. That's always the goal. Or at least the hope that it makes others feel more inspired. And you saying this too it's interesting. I've noticed my friends, like people who I'm always talking to about stuff and sharing with, have also been sharing more with me. And so it does feel like an energy of like openness maybe being cultivated around us and releasing a lot of the shame or just feeling more inspired to just share what we're actually going through, even if we don't have it all figured out yet. But I love that you're doing that because I do think there's something about doing it publicly that feels away. And it's weird. I was talking to my therapist about this on Thursday, telling her about these lives, and she's like, this sounds like it's your version of journaling. Because she knows that my relationship with journaling is kind of challenging or confronting. And that a lot of that comes from having my privacy invaded as a child. But then the irony of that is like having my privacy invaded on one hand makes me not want to journal or makes me averse to journaling because I feel like someone's just going to find it anyway. But then on the other hand, it's like being told that I shouldn't be myself out loud compulsively makes me want to be myself out loud at the same time. But she basically said to me, like, how does it feel to approach these lives more as a daily journal versus coming on here with the intention to teach and like need it to be valid in the sense that I have something to offer that's not just me talking about myself. Sure, it's part of this larger self-acceptance theme that I'm always moving towards. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. So it sounds like similar things are coming up for you too. Hey, friend. Thank you. Thank you. It's not very well tailored, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do think I like it. I like it, I feel like it matches my hair, which is also funny. Graduation is coming, and now I have to shift into doing things without the crutch of school. Ooh, social media has its place in my things too. Yeah. Shift into doing things without the crutch of school. That's so real. Do you mean like the structure of being at school and like the accountability versus just doing things because you want to do them? I kind of struggle with that too. Um, it feels challenging to just show up for myself and do a thing for me and not necessarily get a reward immediately for doing it. Hey, Jim, good to see you. The changes are changing. This feels like a seriously transformative period. I definitely feel that. And it didn't occur to me until last night. I mean, probably because there's mostly been a lot of cardinal in the sky and not as much fixed. But yesterday we had sky full of fixed signs with the moon being in Leo. So I think there was like this moment of self awareness that came up that was like, oh, the shifts are shifting a little bit. Hey Sherry, good to see you. Good evening in South Africa. Hey Winter, OMG, my mother read my diary as a child and took me a very long time to get over it. And I love writing, but I barely journal even though I would love to. Same. Same, same, same. And I also feel like journaling, it's easy for me to get carried away, which is weird to say. Maybe that's, and I'm not assigning a judgment to that, but it just feels like I can start journaling and then my thoughts go so many different directions and I don't write fast enough to keep up with my thoughts. That speaking is usually just easier. But it makes a difference for me to know that someone is actually listening, even if I can't see them listening, as in like face to face, but having comments in the chat and stuff like that makes it easier. And I don't know, it helps me focus a little bit more because I didn't really talk about uh I don't really talk about how many intellectual or mental struggles I have when it comes to like executive function and focus and attention because I haven't been diagnosed ADHD, but been suspected a little bit by potentially but both of my therapists that that's probably something I've been struggling with and didn't know all this time, but I don't want to contribute to like stereotypes and stuff, but the way that I've learned and understood about ADHD a little bit more because I really had no knowledge of it before and actually used to be kind of dismissive of it myself personally. So, which is not good. Don't be like that. But it is very much real and learning the ways that not only has it always affected me, but I'm probably dealing with burnout on the other end of the spectrum from that too is really wild. Like, um, another thing that I've noticed about myself, at least in this Jupiter retrograde, is like I have an in-person job that I work part-time and it's not particularly like a job like the work itself is not something that I'm particularly interested in. It's a customer service job. I've always worked customer service. Obviously, I do like working with people and young people and being helpful in a job. So I like service oriented work, Venus and Jupiter in the sixth house. But the job is just like at a testing center and basically like doing assistant admin type stuff. So, it's not that it's doing anything of any particular interest, it's just performing tasks, mundane tasks, which is great for me because I need to not be emotionally invested as an employee too much. I've usually been over invested as an employee. I'm trying to speak carefully just in case the employers find this. But um it's, like, not something that I feel passionate about per se. I'm passionate about helping people, but the work itself is very mundane. That's my point. And so there's been a way that I haven't, like, done the usual overachiever, overperformer thing that I've done in previous jobs where I'm really doing way more than I should be doing. I'm kind of doing just, like, a regular amount. And then I've noticed that there are days where I don't feel like I'm fully there, fully present, and I really would have beat myself up for that before. But now it's just kind of like not pushing myself, I guess, when I just don't have it to give, and feeling a little bit bad about that as well. Like, I should be doing more. They all probably hate me. But then it seems like my coworkers like me. They think I'm helpful and they think I do a good job. But I know there's definitely a lot more I probably should know and should be doing. So that's another thing I've kind of been noticing and grappling with during this retrograde. That's very different, and I just attribute that to burnout. It's like I don't know how I'm supposed to be showing up in a job that after at least 3 years of self-employment and some unemployment too from the pandemic and everything else, and still being in a pandemic and things still not really being the same. It's like, it's not that I don't care. I just don't have it to give. But thank you. Thank you. I'm glad y'all like my shirt. Sometimes I'm cute. Oh, yes, that as well as not having an excuse for not doing things because I have more time. Yeah. Not like filling up your schedule, um, or having a full schedule all the time and being okay with that sometimes. Or deciding for yourself what you do with your schedule. I notice that I censor myself when I journal, which means I might as well not journal because I'm supposed to be unhinged. Honestly, that too. I also do that. I think there's something about seeing the words on the page that makes me feel like this is a little too real for me. And I think that's supposed to be the point, at least part of the point, but it's very like, I don't know, this feels too personal. What if somebody finds it? Even if I used to burn pages as well for a little while as a way of like just writing something very cathartic that maybe I don't necessarily mean, but that feels real, and then just burning it afterwards as like a way of releasing it. That was advice I got from a Reiki practitioner that was like, you need to be working with fire more. And I was like, probably I have none in my chart. Well, I have very little in my chart. Voice notes as a form of journaling, yes. I've tried that before too, but it's the same thing of just getting lost in my own thoughts. And that's why I started doing that's why I started doing podcasting on my Patreon. But yeah, I don't know. It was like I was overthinking it too much even then, which is so like, please, can I not have so many high expectations of myself all the time? Because I don't write fast enough. Vibes. Video journals, yes. Voice notes. Y'all love a good voice note. Okay, hello. Video, yes, video journals are expensive storage wise. I struggle with that a lot on here. Cool, cool. Okay, so let's see here. Um, how do I want to do this? Do I want to do 2 cards or 3 cards? I've already been here for 20 minutes. Let's just do 2 cards. Oops. 2 cards for Jupiter retrograde so far. Just a little collective energy check in. What is this Jupiter retrograde got us on? What is this about for the girlies? What is it about and how should we approach it moving forward? Those would be my 2 cards. Okay. Also, now is a good time for you to like the video if you haven't already and subscribe to my channel so you can get notifications every time that I go live. All right, let's see here. Our cards for the day are sick of y'all, sick of y'all, sick of y'all. Okay, if you've been here the last few times that I've pulled cards, this is going to be real fucking familiar. Our card on the bottom is, again, the 3 of goddamn wands. What does she want from us? Oh my god. And very funny that I was just talking about fire too. We have that thing happening again where all of these cards are in the same color scheme, child. This motherfucker is back again. Again. Naturally, we're talking about Jupiter in Taurus, and this guy comes back. This card has been Jupiter in Taurus for me in so many different occasions, even before Jupiter was in Taurus. Like, what do you want? And then a Page of Wands. So this is a new one. Still in the Wands theme though. Still in the page. We've had a little bit of pages, but Page of Wands. So those are our two cards with the 3 of Wands on the bottom. So just to show you our little spread. Color scheme. Color scheme is scheming. This is a very psychic deck, I feel like. Always got something to say. They want to keep it in the family. Okay, so I asked the question, what is Jupiter retrograde about and how should we approach it? So the what being the Hierophant, and the how we should approach it being the Page of Wands. So what do you guys think this means? What do you guys think this means? Put your answers in the chat. I'm going to sit with this for a second while y'all chat about it. See, the regulars know. This is a mess. Love that you're looking for a dress in this color scheme, though. It is giving fall. It is giving autumn leaves. It's very crispy, crunchy. No, but it feels warm. It feels inviting. It feels energizing. And it definitely feels exploratory. So let me see here. We'll return in just a moment. No thoughts? No thoughts on these cards? Hmm. Okay, okay. One more. One more little gander here from me. I'm also learning to be okay with moments of silence and pause on live. Mm. It's cute. It feels like it's basically what we've been talking about. Okay, so here's my thought. So, 3 of Wands as kind of the context that we've been working with lately. 3 of Wands come up whenever we are on the path towards what it is that we are creating or working towards, and we don't exactly know how it's going to end up or what the end result is going to look like, but we are on the way. We are taking the steps, taking the actions, moving forward, and to some extent. And this also talks about working with other people and maybe creating or collaborating with your community on this vision of sorts. As you see, the character is sitting on the desk and all the creative materials are behind her, but she's looking out towards the horizon, out at the boats, out at the ocean, at the sunset, um, towards this larger, broader vision. And that's how we've talked about it on previous lives. So this seems to still be the case. There is a vision that we are collectively working towards, and at the very least, individually working towards, that's going to require maybe some help from others. The Hierophant is the traditions, the structures, the authority figures, figures. What am I trying to say? Uh, Authorities and maybe like prominent figures who influence our beliefs, or the structures that influence and help us maintain our beliefs. And these are kind of neutral in a sense. They can be good, they can be bad, but there are ways that we've internalized the beliefs and the doctrines and the stories and the myths and all of these things from these figures and from these belief systems, especially whenever it comes to political and institutional and religious beliefs. So this as like the what is Jupiter retrograde kind of having us confront, it is these larger, it is these belief systems. It can be your personal belief system, or it can be our larger cultural beliefs and systems and structures. But there was something that it said in the book that stood out to me this time. Let me see if I can find it again. That was like, it was more specific to the ways that we've internalized it, since retrogrades are a little bit more about going inward and maybe dealing with the thing inside of yourself, and then how you start to see that reflected outside of you. And it was this line about, he can also symbolize how we are affected by these types of structures, such as internalized values taught to us by traditional organizations and authority figures. So, I mean, I do think Taurus in general is very traditional, and not just in this like conservative political sense of traditional. I just mean in general, like traditions that have existed for you in your identity, or in your personal groups, or in your own personhood, or within your family, or whatever the group is for you, that you've assigned some level of authority or superiority or morality to, and ways that you've tried to assimilate or have internalized those beliefs. So with the retrograde, it's like confronting that, like, how do those things, what are those things for you, and where did they come from? So then how we are supposed to engage with it, or what we are meant to do to confront it with Page of Wands. You see, this is a genderqueer person, non-binary person, playing the guitar, playing a little ukulele out in the middle of the desert, which is kind of random. Geckos all over their shirt, but just, kind of strumming along. And Page of Wands, being in the suit of wands and dealing with this idea of a vision or a passion or a creative project, or just creativity. And in general, there's some exploration of creative, there's some creative exploration, there's some adventurousness around it, there's some uh curiosity around talent and skills and interest, and not limiting yourself to just one version of creative expression, or one version of a vision maybe that you had for yourself in your life. So I guess, like, in the context of the Three of Wands, being that as long as we're taking this particular action of being open, being curious, trying new things, and just exploring, that we're moving forward in the way that we want to be moving forward. Like, you can't really, in this particular spread, you can't really go wrong. And I'll even add that behind the Three of Wands on the bottom of the deck, there's also the Fool, and there's also the Tower. So, and then even behind the Tower was the King of Wands. So there's this idea that, like, we're all kind of venturing through the unknown. We don't know what to expect from taking this new route, or from trying all of these new things. And the point, I guess, in this moment specific to Jupiter retrograde, is not to just pick one thing and really like niche in. I mean, you can. if that's what you want to do. And maybe within that niche, you're exploring a whole bunch of different, again, modes of expression, creative expression and engagement with whatever direction you're going in. But I think the point is to be open, um, and to see what happens. See what you're drawn towards. And I guess how does that then change your relationship to your traditions and your values and your morals and your expectations of yourself, or how you engage with the system itself in general? Which is interesting. Like, I think something that's kind of underrated, and this feels very Aquarius to me, but there's something about, like, dare I say, reform or reinventing how you engage with a particular tool or system or structure or tradition. It's like we feel like traditions aren't allowed to change, or that structures aren't allowed to change, or that systems aren't allowed to change. And sometimes the only answer, I think, is to completely divest. And other times, sometimes you can use what's available or what you know from a particular structure, system, or belief or set of values or whatever it is, and mold it to fit your personal values, your personal beliefs about the world, and your personal perception. It's making me think about Venus and Sagittarius coming up, and how I just said Venus is going to enter Sagittarius next Wednesday on the 6th. I think it's next Wednesday or Thursday on November 6th. And Jupiter will still be in Taurus. That's going to be kind of a weird, like, it's a weird quincunx relationship. Oh, well, that's really interesting. A weird quincunx relationship between Taurus and Sagittarius. Like, those two signs really don't get along. They don't really see each other. They don't connect. They don't make a direct, like, aspect to each other. It's called either an in conjunction or a quincunx. And at the same time, Jupiter is in Venus's sign and Venus is going to be in Jupiter's sign. So they're still in conversation with each other somehow. But what is the conversation that they're having? The conversation that they're having is these structures, these traditions, whatever, and the beliefs that we have about them kind of need to be more suited maybe towards, yes, ourselves and our own perception, but also towards our relationships, like being more relationship oriented and being more communal, or being more um collaborative isn't really the word, but like a system or a structure or a belief system gains power whenever other people sign into it, whenever other people conform to it, which is how we get cults. But the difference between, like, a cult and maybe just like community is that the cult says you have to think like us. You have to see things in this one specific way, or you have to do things in this one specific way. Otherwise, we'll kick you out, or otherwise there's some kind of a punishment or something involved. But there's a lot of coercion and a lot of manipulation involved in cults that don't allow for this larger and broader creative thinking or consideration of other ways of doing things. So it's very much like high control group vibes. Whereas a community automatically assumes that everyone is on some different shit. Like, everyone maybe has different beliefs or different values or different minutia to their beliefs and values, that it's not going to be directly in alignment with everyone, because people are just different. Different people have different thoughts and different beliefs and different needs. And we've talked about this a lot, but I think I'm hearing it or seeing it now as how, like, we still need to have something that we all agree on, or something that we all believe. And again, this vision that we're all working towards, that that keeps us together, but also allows us to, like, have decent respect for each other, respect for our differences, respect for our um, traditions, and for our principles and values and all of the things that kind of make us who we are. So, and there's also, like, the preserving aspect, and maybe this is the thing. There's a preserving aspect that happens whenever we can all come together on a shared belief or shared principle or shared doctrine. There's like accountability that we have to each other. There is less shame involved when we're all on the same page. And then there's also safety in that says your vision or your input is welcome here, and it may not be something that we stick to or that we like fully assimilate to or conform to in this like system that we're building or these beliefs that we're building, but sharing it and us exploring it and just inviting the perspective alone, trying this new thing helps us to get to the thing that we're actually trying to build. It helps us expand our perception a little bit. So it's like, to root this in a real example, it's like for me, like doing these lives and not knowing what I wanted to do with the lives, but I know that I want to be on live regularly. I know that I want to show up and just like do something. And I may be trying a whole bunch of different things and using a bunch of different tools and talking in circles or trying different things, but all of it is helping me kind of explore what it is that I'm actually creating, what it is that I actually believe about creating or about um being an astrologer. It's helping me see myself and my own beliefs in a way, I guess, that I otherwise wouldn't have done if I just sat and maybe just journaled to myself every day, or didn't have these conversations out loud and kind of exercise this new muscle around speaking without a plan necessarily and just talking about things that I'm interested in and things that are fun to me. And I still don't know where this is all going or what the long-term plan is, but I do have a vision for myself of being some kind of a public figure, or I don't know if public figure is the word, but some kind of internet personality or whatever, having Leo in the third house. And how does, what I believe about being an internet personality or whatever in the Taurus sense, help and hinder my creative process. So something like that. So I guess there's just something to be said for creating a new relationship to your own status quo. It's like both creating your own status quo due to the whole Saturn Jupiter square, which I do think we have another one coming up soon. Let me look. Oh, Saturn's going to station direct this month too on the 15th, November 15th. Um don't we have another square? Am I tripping? Yes, Jupiter retrograde square Saturn. It's not until December 24th, Christmas Eve. Jupiter will square Saturn. So again, Jupiter retrograde will square a direct Saturn. So yeah, just knowing that that's on the horizon, I think there's a lot of self-determination in this spread, but I think, yeah, particularly like confronting our beliefs, especially once Venus moves into Sagittarius, and our relationships, how our beliefs affect our relationships to each other, but also just our ability to envision a new future together, stuff like that. So those are my thoughts on that. It's been almost 45 minutes. I guess the last thing I wanted to say and what kind of made me think about wanting to do a Jupiter retrograde check-in was one of the podcasts that I listened to, Around the Way Curls. One of the hosts, she reads very Libra, Virgo, Sag to me. And then the other podcast host is a little bit more maybe Libra, Scorpio to me, probably more Scorpio and a little bit of Capricorn. I'm not 100% sure what their charts are, but I know some of those placements are probably true in the sidereal sense. And the The other host with the kind of Libra, Virgo, Sag thing going on, she's a little bit more of a recovering people pleaser type, and she's talking about quitting her corporate job, potentially quitting her corporate job and trying to search for new jobs, but of course the job market right now is shit. Um, but the role that she's in at her corporate job is like project manager, and so there's a lot of ways that even though the job provides her financial and material security, emotionally it's very draining. It's very much, it's capitalism. It is having to be away towards her coworkers and her subordinates or whoever that is like keeping them on capitalism time, and she really resents that, but is just noticing how not only is it draining her relationship to her coworkers and to herself, but also to her partner and to all of her friends, and just like not being able to be everything for everyone all of the time the way that she usually expects, and feeling a lot of shame about that, like not being able to help her parents in the way that she would want to, not being able to help um her friends or make new friends or just be in some of her more fair weather friendships and be present in them, because this job takes away so much of her time and energy. And at the same time, now that she's trying to move out of that job and trying to seek new jobs, she's realizing like, oh, I'm going to have to do more networking if I want to get a job, because just going out into the job market blind is a futile effort in this job market. Like, I actually do need to rely on people that I know and people who know me, and maybe people who know my values and my beliefs and my passions and like what I want to do in the world, instead of just being a wage slave all the time. So um none of those being her words, these are kind of me paraphrasing, but that just made me think about like, wow, because she's been battling with this for the last couple of years, but I've noticed just since Jupiter's been in Taurus how much of a toll not being able to please everybody in this traditional sense is having on her. And then also some of the changes in her podcast co-host as well, mostly with parenting and like trying to relinquish control around the expectations she has around herself as a parent and what she should or shouldn't be doing for her child. So anytime I hear people just really talking about deviating from this thing they feel like they should be doing and that they've been invested in for so long, and just realizing that it's not sustainable and that it's not fulfilling in the way that they hoped, and having to pivot, that to me really says a lot about Jupiter retrograde and the Saturn retrograde as well, and how they both interact with each other. So very curious what Venus and Sagittarius is going to look like. I actually did not think about Venus and Sagittarius at all when I started this live, but now that we've talked about it and knowing it's right around the corner, now I'm curious. So the cards did they thing like they always do. Cheers to that. What do y'all think? What do y'all think about that? And in the meantime, look at my new background. There's a guy that I follow on Twitter who does a lot of stargazing with expensive telescopes in his backyard somewhere in the middle of Arizona, I think. And that was his latest one. And it's gorgeous. I think space is so beyond comprehension to me. Like, I know I'm an astrologer and all I do is talk about planets, but very weird to me all the time that planets are out there at all. And anytime I watch space movies, I have an existential crisis. Because like, what do you mean? That and like talking about physics. Physics is another thing, but physics doesn't freak me out as much as space. Space freaks me out. I would never be a person who wants to get on one of Elon's or Jeff Bezos's weird rocket ships to go to space. I would simply pass away. You want me to drop the at? Let me find it. I don't know if I don't know what I did with it. I thought I retweeted it. Let me see. It is this guy. On Twitter. It's also on my page if you want to go look at it. I guess he has a calendar that he makes and uses his favorite images to make that calendar. So if I was still into calendars, I'd probably get it because so many of his pictures are great. I don't think I follow him though, actually. Maybe I just see his posts every so often. There's a different guy that I actually follow. So I don't know. You can follow him if you want to. I don't think that's the guy. There's a different guy that I follow, but I don't remember his name. But he posts a lot of really great pictures, usually of planets themselves. But so yeah, not necessarily endorsing this, but for this particular image, he is the author. The author, he is the artist or the creator or whatever, the photographer. Yeah, and I might follow that person too, but I don't remember these dudes' names. You have Venus in Sag, period, Venus return. And the Fool was your birthday card for the year ahead. Okay. Netta says, I have been seeing what you were talking about with my hubs. We had a convo where he was really questioning his motivations for taking his current job, and he's making an adjustment. Yeah, motivations is a good word too, I think, for that spread. Like what drives you to make the decisions that you make in the first place? What are the foundations or belief systems that encourage you to move a certain way or that make you feel like you have to move a certain way? I would mentally collapse if I saw the earth from space. Like, what do you mean that's my home? See, and I just really feel like I don't know if we were meant, like, I don't know if our brains were meant to see earth from space. That's just me. I mean, obviously we're doing it, so whether it was destined or not, obviously it's happening regardless. So I don't mean that in a fatalistic sense, but I do think it's very strange. There's something very questionable about going to space in the sense that you need so much equipment because just leaving our atmosphere, you would immediately burn up, freeze, and die. Like you burn up and freeze at the same time, burn up from the radiation and then freeze from the sub-zero temperatures. And it's a vacuum as well. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's too much for me. um yeah, his was basically patriarchy. He said more words, but it's patriarchy. Yes. Yeah, Taurus, I haven't talked about this very much, but the relationship between Taurus and Leo and Taurus having the upper hand in the square on Leo is really fascinating to me because you would think it's the other way around, but Taurus is kind of the reason patriarchy exists, if that makes sense. Like, Taurus is the agreement of the shared belief of patriarchy. And then Leo is like kind of what gives men the power to utilize patriarchy and gives men authority or gives people authority, but especially men authority to wield patriarchy over others. But it's in service of the Taurus status quo aspect that, at the end of the day, Taurus can change the status quo. Taurus has the power to change the status quo. I mean, it's not going to be cute to push against power in general for anybody, whether you have equality or not. But Taurus kind of, again, is the tradition. So if the tradition changes, then the thing that Leo is reinforcing or imposing as an authority also gets to change. Like that's possible to do that. Because that's why Aquarius then has the upper hand on Taurus. Is that, hey, you can change that, right? Like, I know we're all fixed signs and everything, but we're allowed to change and shift as the context changes and shifts. But alas, it's not that simple. Taurus be sunning Leo placements, low key, unfortunately. High key, unfortunately. But yes, absolutely. All these bitches is my sons. And I'm gonna go and get some bibs for them. Pounds. Yeah. I have so many Leos who don't listen to anyone, but they listen to their Taurus partners. It's hilarious. It's me. It's me with a bunch of Taurus placement friends all over the place. And they're the only people that I will listen to because I don't like to listen to people. I don't like to listen to people. I don't like to be swayed. I don't like to be influenced. I don't like the shoulds, but somehow the Taurians get in my head. Now, fortunately, my Taurus friends are progressive, so it works out. But the ones who aren't, the people I've known in the past who aren't, or who are stuck in their own situation because they don't have other fixed signs, or I don't know, they got something else going on. I'm no, then people can kiss my ass. I am a Leo sun, but I think I might get saved by my Aries rising. Where's your Mars? T. That I can do what the fuck I want is strong within me, for sure. But you also got Libra placements too, don't you? Sherry. Yeah, that ass. Like, yeah. Virgo. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Man, Virgo Mars. Virgo Mars is one of my enemies. One of my enemy placements. I mean, I do have my grandmother has that placement, and one of my good friends has that placement as well. But I've just noticed that placement in the first house, mind you, as well. But but yeah, me and Mars and Virgo be beefing. Yeah, you have Venus in Libra. Mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Taurus just has to breathe, and Leos are like, yes, whatever you say. It's so funny. Girl, on my knees. On my knees. But make no mistake, they can't help themselves. I don't know if it's the Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio combination, but the Taurians also be wanting me to tell them what to do. So, yes, we both ain't shit. Ah, he'll be like, I'll be your wife. I'll do whatever you say, daddy. I'm like, please stop. I am not your father, but also keep it coming. Because maybe I am. I can be whoever you want me to be. And I'm like, please just be yourself. Please just be yourself. That's cute and everything in a specific context. But otherwise, I don't want that power. What Beyonce say? I didn't want this power. Sorry, that was off key. Mutable Venus or Mars is a lot. Child, it is. But you know what's funny? As much as like me and Mars and Virgo be beefing, Venus and Virgo is one of my most dated placements. I even dated a girl that had Moon and Venus in the first house in Virgo, and I was very, very hard eyes over her, but I had no business being with that girl whatsoever. The Venus got me. It got me in a chokehold. Most Venus placements have me in a chokehold, though, to be fair. So, oh, Venus is in Libra, Mercury and Mars are in Virgo. Fair, fair. LOL, Andu. Someone told me I had mommy energy on stage. Maybe that was what they were seeing. Interesting. Mommy energy related to what? It's because the sun loves Venus. You think so? Does the sun love Venus? You know, the Vedic girlies were talking about how the moon and Venus are low-key enemies, and I was like, what? But when I thought about it, I was like, well, kinda, yeah. Especially if you think about at least the square between Cancer and Venus. I mean, Cancer and Libra. There's that. But at the same time, the moon is exalted in Taurus. So there's a reason they say that, I guess. But I think the moon and Venus are like two baddies you shouldn't pit against each other, but they pit themselves against each other because they both want control. They both want control and leverage, and they're like, they can't be two baddies. This town ain't big enough. This sky ain't big enough for two beautiful bitches. So that's why they beef. But that's just my opinion. Maybe, maybe not. Fixed sign people really love my Sag, Venus, and Virgo rising, in all honesty. Not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna hold you. I do like a good Sag Venus. It's in my seventh house. I mean, I like it, and then I'm like, okay, that's enough because it's right next to my Scorpio placements. It's in between my Scorpio and my Capricorn placements. Me and Sag just got an interesting relationship that I need to work out. I'm sure next year in my Sag perfection in the seventh house because it's my shadow. And I'd be like, listen, everybody doesn't think like you and believe the things that you do. And just because you believe it, don't mean that that's the only truth. Okay. But then at the same time, I'm like, man, I wish I was convicted about something like that. So I think it's kind of hot when other people are. I'm like, I could learn from you. I could learn from you how to stand on business, to not be easily swayed. But alas. Mommy, like, come here, my precious. Great. Now, Neil. Oh, real. I could see that. I like that energy in people. I like I like the energy of like someone being very sweet and alluring and seducing. Like I personally am very much an easy mark whenever it comes to siren energy and what's it called? Siren energy and like glamour work. I am a slut for both of those things, unfortunately. And it bites me in the ass every time, but I still am gonna fall for it every time. It's just what happens. I might not stay there as long as I have in the past. You know what, Jim? I think you're right. Venus reflects the sun's light, like, oh, babes, you want to look like me? I think they both like Winter is giving away all of his secrets. I am. They're not even secrets though. Like I fall for everything. Um Venus reflects the sun's light. I do think Venus and the sun, they both have a little bit of that like narcissist energy where they're looking in the mirror and admiring their own beauty and whatever. And they like that they can reflect each other's beauty back to them. I say this because I dated a girl once. So sorry if you watch this. I should not still be talking about her, but I do. I can't help it because she had Venus in Cancer rising, but then she also had a Libra moon. So that whole thing going on, a lot of fortune in Taurus. But then she had the sun, Mercury, and Jupiter in Leo. And I was just like, all the time. I fell for it. I fell for everything the whole time. But she was also that way with me. We were very like locked in. Never met. Never met in person, but down bad for a very long time. I was down bad for a very long time. I still think about it because I've just never felt that level of cracked out on somebody, but also crash out. Like I crashed out for 6 months. And we couldn't leave each other. It was comical. It was very toxic. I mean, it was it toxic. It was kind of toxic. I'm not gonna hold you, but not abusive. At least it was just like, wow, get me off this roller coaster, but also, I'm having so much fun. I need to go to work. I think it's funny. I mean, in the moment, it's very not funny. It's very much mental illness in the moment, but while it's happening, best roller coaster. And I don't even like roller coasters. Who needs a physical roller coaster when you have an emotional one, right? Yeah, absolutely cooked. And the funny thing is I told her to her face because she had me pull her chart and I looked at it and I was like, oh, them is good drugs. I need to stay away from you. And she took that as a challenge, I think. So again, guess we both ain't shit. Never met is crazy. You're telling me. Maybe one day. That girl does not live in North America anymore. No, real, because whenever I do like people, I like how they remind me of me. Leo, Venus, and Mercury. Listen, absolutely. Let's project all over each other fantasies that we can never live up to, and then just like hang out in the fantasy for a little while. I don't have Neptune in Sagittarius in the seventh house. No. Anyway, okay. I need to go. I need to go to work. This was fun. Thank y'all for showing up today and for hanging out. I can't even blame you. I got somebody like that too. I'm waiting for the day. A sweet, gentle say. You know what? Because I'm just saying that siren song, I'll be floating towards it like a cartoon bear floating towards the windowsill of a hot pie that was just baked. I'm following the fumes, baby. Okay. This has been great. Y'all have been wonderful. Very fun read. Um, I will see y'all sometime. I may actually not have time to see y'all tomorrow, but if I do, it'll probably be in the morning because I'm going to go to my friend's basketball game after work. So I will probably see y'all a little bit earlier tomorrow. And if not, then I'll just see you on Wednesday. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye. Cue music.